You see it everywhere these days, right? The incredible power of AI. It's generating images, it's making scientific breakthroughs, but have you ever stopped to think what's going on behind the scenes? Behind all that amazing software, there's a physical world of hardware that is just almost impossibly complex. So today, let's pull back the curtain and look at the one company that's building the invisible engine for the entire world.
So let me ask you this. What's really making all of this AI stuff possible? We always think about AI as, just code and data floating around in the cloud. But what is that cloud actually made of? What's the fundamental physical thing that you need for today's AI to even exist? Well, the answer? It's probably not what you're thinking.
Yeah, you heard me right. Light. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? But it's true. The engine of our entire digital world and the absolute key to the AI boom isn't just about code. It's built using hyper-advanced, incredibly precise, controlled light.
Okay, so to really get why light is so important here, we first have to wrap our heads around the massive scale of the problem AI presents. Every single leap forward in what AI can do demands a similar leap in computing power. And we're not talking about a small jump. AI is just insatiably hungry. It needs chips that are way faster, more efficient, and packed with an unbelievable number of transistors. In fact, ASML's own CEO said that artificial intelligence is the key driver of growth for their entire industry. So that creates this huge challenge. How in the world do you actually build these ridiculously complex chips?
And that question brings us to the incredible technology that literally turns sand into the brains behind artificial intelligence.
The process is called lithography. Now, the easiest way to think about it is like a projector, but instead of showing a movie on a screen, it's projecting a mind-bogglingly detailed blueprint for a microchip onto a disk of pure silicon. And the level of precision we're talking about here is it's almost impossible to comprehend. It's etching patterns that are billions of times smaller than a grain of sand.
And this technology has taken some giant leaps. For years, the go-to is something called deep ultraviolet light, or DUV. You can think of that as drawing with a really, really fine-tipped pen. It worked great, but for what we need for today's AI, that just wasn't precise enough. So the industry had to upgrade to something called extreme ultraviolet, or EUV. And that's like switching from that fine-tip pen to an impossibly sharp needle. It lets you draw with exponentially more detail.
And that, right there, that is the direct line connecting some seriously advanced physics to the AI tools you use every single day. Without the unbelievable precision of EUV light, the chips inside your phone, your computer, and those massive data centers that power AI, well, they just wouldn't be possible, period.
Now here's the crazy part. There is only one company on the entire planet that can build these critical EUV machines. That company is ASML. So how does having that kind of monopoly translate to their bottom line? Let's take a look at their latest report card.
I mean, when you're the only game in town for a technology this essential, you'd expect some pretty impressive results, right? So let's see what the grades look like for the second quarter of 2025.
First up, total sales. In just 3 months, they pulled in a staggering 7.7 billion euros. That's from selling these machines that are roughly the size of a city bus. And that number hit the absolute high end of what they were expecting. Just incredible. And out of all that revenue, how much was pure profit? 2.3 billion euros. That means for every 10 euros they made in sales, almost 3 of it went straight to the bottom line. That's a huge margin, and it just shows you how indispensable their tech really is. And what about the future? Well, that looks pretty bright too. They booked 5.5 billion euros in new orders for machines. Now that's the number you watch because it tells you what future demand looks like. And clearly, chip makers are still betting big to keep feeding that hungry AI beast.
So yeah, those big headline numbers are impressive, but the story gets even more interesting when we start to peel back the layers a little bit.
So where did all that money come from? Well, you can see that almost 70% of their sales were for what we call logic chips. These are the brains of any device, the processors that actually run the AI models. The other 31% went to memory chips, which are also crucial for training those same models. See? It's all part of the same AI-driven machine.
Okay, but check this out. This part is actually pretty surprising. You'd think all the new orders would be for those super cutting-edge EUV machines, right? And yeah, they got 2.3 billion euros in EUV orders, but look at the older DUV technology. It actually brought in more new orders, 3.2 billion.
That tells us that it's not just the tip of the spear that's growing, the entire industry is expanding like crazy, and it needs massive investment across the board.
And you have to remember, ASML's business isn't just about selling shiny new machines. They have this massive fleet of machines already out there in the world, and that fleet needs constant servicing and upgrades to keep it running. And that part of the business, just maintaining the existing engines, brought in another 2.1 billion euros. That's a huge, stable source of income. But even for a company in a position this powerful, the road ahead isn't perfectly clear. There are some potential bumps.
These words from their CEO, Christophe Fouquet, kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Even with this crazy boom going on, the company is seeing a bit of uncertainty as they look further down the road.
And these are the reasons why. You've got the whole global economy looking a little shaky, you've got geopolitical tensions all over the place which could lead to things like tariffs, and some of their biggest customers are facing their own spending challenges. It all just adds up to a foggier picture in the short term. However, and this is a big however, ASML is looking right past that short-term fog. The company is basically saying they are confident that the fundamental trends pushing this whole industry forward are absolutely unstoppable.
And if you want proof of their long-term confidence, look no further than this. This is their target. By 2030, they are aiming for an annual revenue of somewhere between 44 and 60 billion euros. That could be more than double where they are today. It's a massive bet that this AI revolution, it's really only just getting started.
And that leaves us with one final, really important question. The demand for what they make is undeniable and their technology is one of a kind. But their success hinges on their ability to navigate a pretty messy world of economic and political storms. The fate of our entire digital future might just rest in a very real way on their ability to do exactly that.